Hi, this is Brian with ActiveMelody.com. For this week's guitar lesson, we have a very slow and easy to follow along with lead that's kind of got a country feel. There's a lot of pedal steel licks in it, and a lot of stuff that you can take from this lead and apply to your own playing. How to play harmonized six, how to do some of these pedal steel bends, and it's just a lot of fun and something that just about everyone can follow along with. Now, I've got the lesson split into two parts, so in this video we'll take a look at the first half. If you'd like to watch the second half, download the tablature, download the MP3 jam tracks, which I have in multiple tempos. You can get all of those assets by going to ActiveMelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP355. Alright, so the lead this week is a very slow and easy to play lead. It's super easy because it's really slow and spacey, and I'm calling it a country lead, although you could easily call this blues. It's kind of got a Ry Cooder feel to it. In fact, I was kind of going for that sound, but why I ended up calling it country was because of all those pedal steel licks. I kept throwing in these bends, and it just sort of, when I listened to it at the end, I didn't have country in mind. I just have music in mind. But when I listened to it in the end, I thought, I'm going to describe this as country. It always upsets me when I see comments on YouTube from people where they'll say, oh, I don't do country. I'm passing this week. And it's like, don't look at the label. I have to call it something. Just listen to the music. If you like the music, then try and learn it. And also think about how you can apply this to something else. And that's what I hope you get out of all these lessons. This one's going to be full of little takeaways, little mini lessons that you can take these little pieces and you can apply those to your own playing, whatever style of music you play. So let's talk about the chords. There's 3 chords in this first half. Very simple, basic chords. We have the 1 chord, which is a C. And then we have the 2 chord, which is a D minor, and then the 5 chord, which is a G. And that's what we're going to be playing over, C, D minor, G. It's very basic, and it's played very slow, easy to follow along. The next thing I'll mention is the tone. I always get questions on that, and it's hard because there's a lot of variables with tone, but I'm playing through the, this is a Stratocaster, and I have it on the neck pickup, and I have the tone all the way up. I actually have the volume all the way up too, which I don't usually do, but anyway, that's the guitar. Now, I'm playing through the Kemper Profiler back here, and I have it on a Fender Showman amp. I love that profiled amp. Whoever did this, I downloaded it. That's what's nice about the Kemper, is I don't own a Showman, but I can download the profile. But it's nice because I can add just a little bit of overdrive to it, and I get that slightly overdriven sound, but it still sounds clean in the end. And when you listen to that in the intro, you would not hear any overdrive. And that's one tip that I wanted to mention. If you're trying to get a real clean sound that has a lot of sustain in it, you're going to want to add some overdrive to your sound. Now, if I just played that, you can hear how long it sustains, but if I just played that, you don't hear overdrive. However, if I switch to the bridge pickup and hit it hard, you can hear the breakup in there. The other thing to mention is the reverb. So you can hear quite a bit of that going on, and I just sort of, I don't know what percent it's at, but I turned up the reverb. And I've also added a little bit of delay. It's not a lot of delay, there's not a lot of feedback going on with it, but I threw that in. Now, you don't have to have delay. As long as you have overdrive through a pedal or something, and then some reverb, you can get this sound. So that's what I'm going for. You just have to kind of play around with it and dial it in for your guitar. But I do think having your guitar on the neck pickup gives you that more of a jazzy, mellow tone than you get if it's real bright, nasally sounding. Even though we're going for country, I know that's sort of counter, at least for my ear. It just sounded better on this guitar anyway. Okay, so those are the chords, that's the tone. The first thing that I played was a pedal steel sounding bend like that. And let me show you how to play it, and then I'll show you how to think about it so you can use this in anything going forward. But we're playing in the key of C, so I'm thinking C major pentatonic scale, and we're right in pattern 1. Right here. Now here's a little tip. This is going to be a big light bulb for a lot of you. Look at your 2 C chords. So we're going to look at 2 different voicings of it. So we're going to use the A shape, there's a C chord, and then we're going to come all the way up here to the E shape out of Caged. So E shape, A shape, and look at the in between those 2 chords. There's your pentatonic scale pattern 1, major pentatonic scale pattern 1. Hopefully that just clicked with a lot of you. It took me a long time to figure that out. I don't know why. It's right there. But the other way you can think about it is when you look at that A shape where your bar is here, you're butting right up to that pattern 1 of the major pentatonic scale. Okay, so that first lick, that's pattern 1 of that major pentatonic scale for C. I've got my ring finger on the 8th fret 2nd string. My middle finger is on the 7th fret 3rd string. And I'm going to hold down the 8th fret 2nd string while I push and try and do a full bend on that 7th fret 3rd string. Now I'm using these 2 fingers to pluck strings 2 and 3 like this. You don't have to do it that way. You can use your pick and rake it across the 2 strings. I find it to be a little more precise and a little more pedal steel sounding if you pluck it. So that took me a long time. As simple as that sounds, it took me a long time to be able to do that without bending that 2nd string. You may even have to hold that finger down to make sure it doesn't move, but that's that first thing that's happening. Now remember that lick and remember where it is in pattern 1. So if you want to use that in anything, any kind of country thing going forward, you've got it. The other part to that would be to go. You can come up here and add your pinky to the 8th fret 1st string. It's kind of a Keith Richards thing. But it's a really cool country pedal steel lick. So that's the first thing I did. I did the bend, and then I played string 3, 2, 3, and released it. So you hold that bend while you hit strings 3, 2, and 3, and then you release it. So all together it's... And then I came down to the 5th fret 3rd string to close out that lick. Okay, so that's what I played over the C chord. Then we go to the D minor chord, and I played... So there's our D minor chord. Let's look at what's going on here. I've got my ring finger on the 5th fret 1st string. I've got my middle finger on the 5th fret 2nd string. And I'm plucking, again, same technique, plucking with these 2 fingers, strings 1 and 2. And I'm doing a half bend this time with my middle finger. So this is where the key to that pedal steel thing, when you're playing it on a guitar, is you have to have full control with those bends. If you're playing an actual pedal steel, your pedal stops right where it needs to, so it sounds very precise. It's not the case when you're bending. You have to know where to stop the bend. So this is a great lesson on bending and control. That's what you're trying to do. So why is that working? Well, let's look at the D minor chord right here. This is using the A minor chord shape. So if we think of A minor, down in 1st position, we move it up, we capoed on the 5th fret with our index finger, we've got a D minor. Now look at strings 1 and 2. Okay, so those 2 strings, that's the notes we're trying to create. I'm just bending into that note. I'm trying to bend and hit that note while I hold down that string. It makes sense now when you think of it that way. And so I'm just pointing out the chord to you so that you can use that lick in anything going forward. If you hear a minor chord, if you're playing a song with a minor chord in it, let's say it's a C minor, now you can go and bend into that chord. It sounds really cool. And it's easy to do because you can visualize the chord shape. That's why I always go back to that. You have to connect these things back to something. And if you can connect them to chord shapes, there's really no better anchor than that. All songs have chords in them. Okay, so that last note there is the 3rd fret 2nd string. Okay, so that's what we played over the D minor. So that was the C, and then the D minor. And by the way, this is a waltz. It's 1, 2, 3, 2, 2. It's a 3/4 time. And then we go to the G. And what I play there. So what I'm doing for that, for the 5 chord, is I'm picturing, and I want you to think about this going forward. I know a lot of you probably already know this, but when you think about this chord shape, so that's the E shape out of Caged, but we're playing a G chord. When you think of that shape, I want you to think about immediately to picture the D shape of that same chord. And it's just, you can look at where these 2 fingers are, you skip a fret and you come up to here. If you picture that, it allows you to quickly go into that chord mindset and you can come up into this double stop. And from that double stop, you can do so many things. You can walk it down for a turnaround. You can do a bend like we're about to do. You can play a major chord. You can play a 7 chord. It's all there around those 2 strings. And so I just mentioned that so that you can get in the mindset of when you go into a chord, a major chord, picture this. In fact, I often just go into that like I did here. So that's a harmonized 6. They're 6 intervals apart, these 2 notes. And I'm bending both of them, trying to anyway. And then we're going to take that down 2 frets and bend them again. Both strings at the same time. And then we come down to this. So now I've got my middle finger on the 4th fret 3rd string and my index finger on the 3rd fret 1st string. What are those 2 notes? They're just your G chord, strings 1 and 3. So you've got skip a fret, skip a fret, well I guess skip a fret on the 1st string. Okay, so remember this is all part of your G chord shape. If you go the other way with it, it's just the major scale. So look at this. You're just harmonizing the major scale in 6. That's all that's going on there. So we're just taking a little piece of that scale. And then I went and came down like this. So this is the other part that you can connect to this chord shape. Now we're on strings 2 and 4. So I'm on the 5th fret 2nd string and the 5th fret 4th string. And we're going to go from here down to the 3rd fret. But we're going to hit the 4th fret along the way. And slide it down like that. So let's back up and play everything we're going to play over that G chord. Right? It's great. All of that represented the G chord. I didn't have to actually play a G chord at all. I hinted at it with all of what that was going on there. The G chord was already played in the jam track anyway. So then we come down to here, which is the C chord. So that's where that would be strings 2 and 4 out of your C chord. Just play a C chord and then 2 and 4. And it looks like that. Index finger on the 1st fret 2nd string, middle finger on the 2nd fret 4th string. Alright, so I'm going to play along now with a slow version of the jam track so that you can hear everything that we've been playing in context with the jam track. And remember, this is the slow version of the jam track. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now we've looped through all 3 chords and we're back to the C chord. And you'll hear that in the jam track. There's that classic kind of country turnaround, walk up or whatever. So we're back to the C chord. And I played really soulful and more bluesy than country to me, but you could argue it either way. So I'm starting down here in what would be C major pentatonic scale pattern 4. There's that little triangle I'm always talking about in pattern 4. So we're going to go from pattern 4 to pattern 5 to pattern 1 to pattern 2. We're going to walk through a lot of patterns here very quickly, but it's all just the major pentatonic scale. There's only 5 notes. The only reason that I even mention the patterns is just to help you group the little notes that we learn. That's why we even mention patterns. They're irrelevant other than that. It's just a grouping thing. So 2nd string, we're going to go fret 3 and 1, and then that's sliding from the 3rd fret to the 5th fret on the 2nd string, and then 3rd fret, 5th fret on the 1st string. So we have, and you can see what we've done is we've started in pattern 4, now we're sliding up to pattern 5, and watch this. And there we went from the 5th fret 1st string. Now think of your pattern 1 major pentatonic scale, right? There we just covered the bases of pattern 1 all the way up to pattern 2. So it sounds like a lot, but it's just really hitting a few notes. So we're going 5th fret 1st string, slide up to the 8th fret 1st string, up to the 10th fret 1st string, and then a full bend and a release and a pull off. So with that 10th fret 1st string, 2 bends, and you gotta try and hit that 12th fret 1st string. That's the note you're bending to. And look at that. I'm only picking that once, but I'm doing a release and then a pull off. And I kind of flick the string so that it rings out with some vibrato there on the 8th fret 1st string. Let's look at that again. So we have, let me do it one more time. Notice this. I'm just sliding that. I'm not picking that. In fact, I think I even slid that as well. So that's what's nice about having the extra sustain, and why you would want to add overdrive to your clean channel is it allows you to do that and be heard. If it was just pure clean channel, it would have probably died out, the noise from the note. Okay. And then I went, so that was all over the C chord. And then it goes to the D minor. So it goes. And what I'm doing there is I'm in pattern 2 of that major pentatonic scale for C. So I'm going to bar the first 2 strings on the 8th fret, and then I'm going to do a hammer on to the 10th fret 2nd string while I hit both strings. So it sounds like that. And then I come down and I'm playing the D minor chord. This is why it's so important to know your different chord voicings so that you can quickly get to them. So I could have done it here or done a D minor up here. There's 3 minor chord shape voicings. So you can remember that. In fact, you can go to EP, I think it's 275, if I can remember this correctly. 275, I go through the 3 minor chord voicings. You have 3 different shapes that you can use, and you can play all your minor chords everywhere. So this is one of those 3, and what I'm doing is just your A minor chord shape, if you think of that, where you play your D minor here, but I'm on strings. It does a little stair step. I'm only playing strings 1, 2, and 3. I don't need the full bar. So 5th fret 1st string, 6th fret 2nd string, 7th fret 3rd string. Slide it down and then back into place. That's another technique that I like to use if I'm going to hit a chord, especially if it's a triad like that. It makes it easy to slide them in and out. Okay, so from all right, and then the song goes back to the G chord, and I played. And what I'm doing there is this is that same harmonized 6 that I just showed you before. We had, so that would be the 5th fret, strings 2 and 4. And I slide into it. It just gives it a better sound to do that. So I'm sliding. I've got my ring finger and my middle finger for that. And I'm not sure why I use those 2 fingers. That's just how I like to do that. But anyway, I'm starting on the 3rd fret, and I'm picking the 4th string, sliding up to the 5th fret, and then I pluck the 2nd string. My pinky goes down on the 6th fret, 6th fret 2nd string. Sorry. And that's just a little embellishment off this shape here. Then I played it again, 4-2, and then down to here, and came up to the C chord. So there's your C chord, right? Strings 2 and 4, and then I just went down a half step. So to do that, I've got my middle finger on the 1st fret, 4th string, and then I'm plucking the 2nd string open, and then walking that up into the C chord. And then I capped it off with another version of it. So all I'm doing is I'm walking, into the C chord here, and I'm doing the same thing here. So I'm playing a 4th fret, strings 2 and 3, and coming up to the 5th fret. Some of you are going, wait, what's that? Why is that a C chord? There's your C chord, right? Using the A chord shape. I'm just playing strings 2 and 3. Hopefully that connected with you what's going on there. There's a C chord, and if I wanted to do it up here, I could go, right? And so that's how you start to play harmonies when you're improvising. I was always amazed when I would see artists do that. They would just improvise playing harmonies. Like, how could you get your head around knowing how to harmonize? Well, that's what most of them are doing, is they're just picturing chord shapes. You can keep going with it. But once you can see your chords all over the neck, it's fairly easy and quick to do. Now, this is where the song goes into a whole other part, where it goes into a minor chord. Goes to an A minor and stuff. I'm going to save that for the part 2 video. We'll save that for premium members. If you're not a premium member, look into it. I know I say this all the time, but it's incredibly affordable, and it's like, I think, the best value out there. I'm a little partial, I understand. But in terms of price and what you get, it's really, for those of you that are interested in learning how to improvise, if you want to learn how to play, Eagles songs or Beatles songs, this isn't the place for that. But if you want to learn how to pick up a guitar, sit in with other people and jam or write your own music, this is the place for that. So look into that if you're not one. And also subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done that. I always forget to plug that at the beginning, but hit the subscribe button, click the alert bell, and then you'll be notified when I put out new lessons. I'm going to go ahead and play along with a slow version of the jam track, and we'll go through this one more time, this first half, everything that we've covered here, and then I will see you in part 2, where we'll go over the rest of this. 1, 2, 3.